What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Chris Apicon.
What's going on, everybody?
And Daniel Acevedo.
How's it going, guys?
What's going on? So Shannon is away this week. You guys did an amazing job last week. I was like, man, when I was doing the production, I was like, being a listener for the first time of the podcast, right? Not just critiquing myself, but like listening to you guys. I was like, this is a pretty good show. More people should subscribe. Speaking of subscriptions, we're danger close to 500. So I want to push past that goal now. So we should have 500 by, I'd say, the end of the week, maybe the end of the week after. But I would like to shoot for 1,000 subs on YouTube by the end of the year. We can do it. Okay. Like we got 50 last month and so on and so forth. So we're pushing pretty hard. The reason that we have these magical numbers is not only for our own vanity, right? Like, oh, people listen to us. But you get different features as you scale up. So if we hit 1,000 subs at so many hours, which you get more hours of watch time, more people you have, right? Compound interest, so to speak. It allows us to do more with the podcast, and then it allows us to be paid a percentage of the ads that are starting to run on our stuff. And the ads are an indication that people are watching, but they don't pay you until you hit a certain number of subs. YouTube is ingenious in this regard, but I digress. We're shooting for 1,000. Please, if you are a subscriber via audio, come look at our beautiful faces on YouTube. Right, we're on pretty much every platform you can think of, audio wise, and then video is on YouTube, LinkedIn, and sometimes Spotify if I upload it. But I don't see a lot of people watching us on Spotify. They listen to us on Spotify. So I only upload certain videos up there. And then Apple is, I think, going to flip to audio and video again. So we should be on there as well. But yeah, come look at our mugs. All right. If you don't mind. But even if you don't, just go to YouTube and hit the subscribe button and hit the bell if you want to hear about our content. Monday, Tuesday, our topics. Wednesday, discussion. Thursdays, Ask a CISSP. I have one of those coming up in a couple weeks. And then Fridays, everything else. So movies, books, games, all that good stuff. But without further ado, this article comes from bleepingcomputer.com. It is entitled DigiCert to Delay Cert Revocation for Critical Infrastructure. So if you're not aware, there was a major push for people to so DigiCert urges critical infrastructure operators to request a delay if they cannot reissue their certificates as requested by an ongoing cert mass revocation process announced on Tuesday. So last week there was a major push like, hey, you guys have to reissue your certs. We're going to do a mass. Instead of using the word revocation, I'm going to say we're going to cut you off. Yep. Mass cutoff. So the problem with that being, though, a lot of companies just don't have the bandwidth, or they don't have the people power in order to make this happen quickly. So they're pushing to say, hey, we need more time. This process required 6,807 impacted customers to reissue 83,267 certifications within 24 hours by July 31st at 1930 UTC after logging in to their DigiCert Central account to identify affected certificates. So that was a tongue twister. So mass revocation need to be done ASAP, and people just didn't have the bandwidth to do so, or the knowledge that it was happening. So they asked for the delay. So I toss it to you, Daniel. What are your thoughts on this?
Man, what a couple of weeks for bad updates. That's all I can think of. First CrowdStrike and now this. So the root cause was a bad system update back in 2019, and they realized the outcomes of it now in 2024. I guess luckily that they realized what was going to happen before it actually happened, so they can release that mass notification so organization companies can kind of try to figure out what they can do in due time before it actually hits them and they're just cut off. I had to do a lot of kind of like research for this article because I always know about certificates and we hear about it. And for some reason, in the back of my mind, it's overcomplicated. But the DigiCert process is pretty straightforward and they have good support for it. But what the article is really alluding to here is the critical infrastructure part of it, such as, critical infrastructure, energy, health, finance, these type of systems where doing a update of certificates in their environments, they can't bring those things down in a seamless fashion without bigger impacts. So there really is no seamless transition for like an energy or a health organization to re-update their certifications without some kind of like secondary or third effect, right? So it really puts them in a really bad place right now. So I don't actually have a really good solution. So like Ryan was saying before, those people leaving comments, leave some good comments below. Like what would be the process in your guys' mind, or give some suggestions? Because, all I could think of from this article is like, hopefully after this happens and the dust settles, maybe DigiCert can go back, since they're one of the leaders in the industry for TLS and SSL certification issuance. They can come up with maybe some new way forwards or technologies or processes for those critical infrastructures. Because I think maybe there's a gap there kind of in the issuance and these specific arena and these specific infrastructures in general. But those are my thoughts. Chris, what do you think?
I mean, really, first thoughts was I didn't have a massive certificate authority revoking a ton of certificates on the business continuity bucket list this year, right? Or list. I was just like, what? This is happening right now? Like, so usually when you've got revocations, right, you can go to your browser and you can check, how long is this TLS certificate good for, right? A lot of the times that stuff's pretty much automatic on our end, the client side, right? Or at least the customer end, right? But organizations, their administrators have to go in manually, and like it said in the article, they have to manage their specific certificates. Generally, I would imagine that these revocations are already well planned in advance. So and they're probably in a phased approach where you don't have a gigantic waterfall coming at you within 24 hours. Right. Also consider the types of certificates and where those certificates lie, right? And what services they're associated to based on your industry, right? So that's why, critical infrastructure is extremely important, because you're talking about people being able to, pay their bills, or you're talking about an organization, like you said, medical, being able to communicate with, other vendors in the, let's just, for example, say pharmaceutical arena where, drugs and, availability of care is impacted, right? So I think that delay makes the most sense, right? Like, hey, we need to make sure that people get adequate care. We need to make sure that a rollout happens on Tuesday night or something to that effect, where you've got minimal downtime. And really what the thing is it's a phased approach, right? But again, like I said, I didn't have this on the business continuity bucket list, or like bingo list, rather.
Bingo card, yeah,
bingo card for things to happen, right? So that's just another thing to plan for, right? It's again, not a lot of companies out there, smaller, medium-sized businesses have a mature business continuity, disaster recovery process, right, for continuation of their services. But consider that, right? That's kind of my first recommendation to organizations is look at your business continuity and disaster recovery, right? And I promise, like, this was not on the freaking bingo list, right? For a lot of companies, right? Maybe they expect storms, right? Services are down, but certificates, right? DigiCert is a massive organization with trusted certificates. They got PKI certificates, SSL certificates from browsing, right? API security. They're everywhere, right? So when this is affected, 6,807 customers, it's a huge deal, and especially within a 24-hour period. Usually, you've got like a month ahead of time to do that. But again, those are just my thoughts. Look at disaster recovery, business continuity, and that's just another thing to add to your repertoire of things to worry about, really. So what do you think, Ryan?
No, I think you hit the nail right on the head. So I forgot last time to do the midpoint call to action. So please like, share, subscribe.
There you go.
We're trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year. Hit us up on all the social media places that we're at, the other side of the firewall, the other side of the FW, or ask a CISSP. We'll find us somewhere on the interwebs. But with that out of the way, no, I think you're absolutely right. Both of you are absolutely right. I lean towards the business continuity side of the house, right? If I put on my consultant hat, this was not part of the plan for this year, right? I joked at the beginning of the year, this is the year to change all your passwords, right? 2024.
Yeah.
No, you should be on a semi-annual or annual basis anyway, reviewing your business continuity plans, your disaster recovery plans, and things of that nature. You may want to bump it up to at least every 6 months, if not every quarter. The way things have been ramping up, like you should have your team should be checking your policies and going through your guidance to see how prepared you are for sudden shutdowns. Because as we have now seen, the internet for the Windows side of the internet, which is the majority of the internet, went down. We now see mass revocations. We're going to talk about it in the next episode about Fortune 50 companies paying massive payouts to ransomers. So if they have to do it, what are your chances of surviving the potential of a mass ransomware attack that takes down your systems? Like, do you have good backups? Do you have a more hot site? Do you have a parallel or a similar environment you could bring up? There's a lot of bigger companies that are just not doing it right. So I'm very worried about the smaller companies that just don't have the manpower or necessary the resources to have the greatest business continuity. Definitely have your team start digging through your documents to see how well you fare, because we've had, like, to put in a positive light, we've had a bunch of tabletops this year. You've gotten a lot of practice this year.
Oh yeah.
So are you going through and are you working your strategies to make sure that when 2025 hits, and if it's just as rocky as 2024, like, are you prepared to come back up after you go down for no apparent reason? So I really do think that this falls on, like, do you have a CISO? If not, because they're running away right now, do you have a company that you lean on to be your CISO? If not, do you have someone in your security team that's fulfilling some of those roles, and how plugged in are they? Because right now I feel as though they're being overwhelmed. Because we talk about something new, like I would say earlier on in the podcast, sometimes I had to struggle to find articles. I'm like, okay, I'll check all these different sources, usually like Bleeping Computer. This one was Sergey Gatlin was always good. The CSO, we had Dark Reading. So we had content to pull, but sometimes it was a little bit hard. Not this year. There's been a banger, so to speak, every week. So how plugged in are your teams? Like, we're plugged in because we are consultants, we're ISSMs, we're things of that nature, right? And we do a podcast where we have to come up and talk about new content all the time. But find out from your team how plugged in they are. Like, when I do my assessments, I find out, like, what forums are you watching, what articles are you reading, things of that nature. Like, I talk to the security team to see if they can see the writing on the wall before it happens. Because after you find out about these things, then you have to then take the time to run it up to the business side to explain to them what's going on. And that translation could take some time. So, again, how plugged in are you? When SolarWinds hit, a lot of us knew about it way before the government started talking about it, because that's a huge ship that you have to turn. It takes a very long time. So in preparation of that, like, how do your troops know that this is going on? Like, do they know the severity of this? Are they starting to make plans for when the big A6, J6, S6, whomever comes down and says, hey, you need to change these things ASAP. Like, are you prepared for that? So same thing when it comes to business. How plugged in are you? Do you know that this is actually going on? If you're just now hearing about this on the podcast, that's great. That means that you're tuned in. Now ask your security team about it. Do they know that this is going on? And you might be surprised. It might not be their fault, though.
I would kind of add on to that. Also, not only how plugged you are into the way what's going on, but also specifically in this situation too, how well the security team and the system administrative team are plugged into each other, right? What's that cross-departmental, cohesion looking like? Because something like this, coming up with, interesting strategic ways to fix the solution on the fly. Maybe something from the administrative side, they can think of, like, maybe spinning up a new VM or pushing over permissions and resources to mimic what's in the current environment with new certificates is faster than having to revoke these ones and more seamless for your environment, right? So how well is your security team and your admin team, working together as a unit, right? Or how well do those rights fall on your security team if they have any, or X, Y, and Z? All this needs to be channeled up. All this needs to be worked at middle-level management, senior-level management, right? And trickle down. So that way, when things like this happen, you can respond quickly and not at that point try to fumble around and then get these departments to work together or have that kind of environment for them to be successful.
No, absolutely. And the same thing for the KnowBe4 article that you guys talked about, like you guys hit it right nail on the head, like how plugged in is the HR team with the security team. So there's a lot of synergy that we know should have been there, but from a business perspective, they know that these teams should be talking to each other. Is there a strategy? And when they go through their steering committees, are these people invited to the table? Because you'll be very surprised that when you bring unlike organizations within your business together and they start to talk, you find the overlap is pretty significant, and they weren't aware of it. Like these things were just happening by happenstance, or they weren't happening at all. Like that's not a strategy. That's not a plan when things just happen. You know what I mean? Like magic won't save you when real trouble knocks at the door. So
I think especially considering the current remote/hybrid environment, you've got people more separated from each other's business units than ever before, right? So really continuing that cross-team, cross-organizational, cross-functional team collaboration within your organizations for that continuous and to meet the goal of security, right? Security is everybody's responsibility.
Invite us to the table. That's all we're asking. It's important. I don't want to make more meetings for anybody, but
exactly.
I saw a lot of.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, finish.
No, like pull us in at the table. Like open up our Outlook calendars. We've got free time. On a Monday morning. Whatever.
Yeah,
right.
We saw a lot of good benefits from it when I used my previous job where I worked at. We started getting invited to more meetings and more things, and they saw the overlap of us being there was beneficial to them, and we benefited from being there too, so we can get ahead of things, projects, things that might be showstoppers way in advance, so that we could bring those things to the table to address them before the projects were even brought to the organization. Instead of at the end of it, like, hey, we're going to do this and we want to do this next year. And we're like, well, we can't do that next year because X, Y, and Z, or like, hey, we are going to start this project in 3 months, but that's impossible. So I don't want to be the topic to a dead horse, but.
No, you're absolutely right. Cause I think that brings into, and it's not the discussion topic of the week, but I mean, it's a great discussion that we're having. You don't want to put the security team in a bad light, like by always inviting them near the tail end of a project and they come in and they kind of shut things down, or they say they're the naysayers, right? You rather have them at the beginning or the middle, because then it can help steer you. And then it's a better look for both that team and for your productivity. Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is missed, and it kind of puts the IT department and the security department in a bad light. And I had that experience a lot earlier in my career, because you come in and you're like, no, you want to do what? When? Like you put us at the beginning, and then it's a lot easier to build that calendar, right? It just makes sense. And whomever is steering that committee, whether it be a seasoned PM or whomever, just needs to know, like, you start the meetings out big and then you pare them down. You never want to do the opposite. That triangle will kill you at the end. So that's all. But thank you for tuning in. Again, please check us out Monday, Tuesday, our topics, Wednesday discussion. Tomorrow's is really good. That Wednesday discussion is going to be pretty good. I'd say that, and it's going to be like 7 minutes long because we all agree. And then Thursdays, Ask a CISSP. I have one coming up in the next couple of weeks. It's very interesting. And then Fridays, everything else. So movies, books, games, all that good stuff. So yeah, we have a lot of content. Check us out. Every episode gets an article that I publish on LinkedIn and Medium, and then also on other socials, right? But if you want to watch or read the full thing, you have to go to those 2 sites. And then I embed the videos within it. So it's a one-stop shop. And then we roll everything up in a newsletter called the Weekly Rundown, which you can check out, and has all of the topics plus bonus content, right? So just the behind the scenes type stuff that we're doing. So definitely hit us up at all the websites to go by our name, The Other Side of the Firewall, The Other Side of the FW, or Ask a CISSP on all the socials. Give me a personally, I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. And where can they find you, Chris?
You can find me on LinkedIn under Chris Abacon. Last name spelled A Bacon.
There it is. And where can they find you, Daniel?
In LinkedIn under my name as well, Daniel Acevedo.
There it is. Stay safe. Stay secure.